As a global language teachers who wants to stay up to date with the recent developments in education, we have to constantly evolve as educators and include modern ways of teaching in our lesson planning and our teaching methods. Hello everyone! Good day! Are you looking for an effective approach in a teaching and learning process? You are in the right place, so kindly sit back, relax, and listen. Today, we are going to talk about a task based approach. Are you ready? So, now let's define what is a task based approach. A task based learning approach offers an alternative for language teachers. In a task based lesson, the teacher doesn't predetermine what language will be studied. The lesson is based around the completion of a central task, and the language studied is determined by what happens as the students complete it. Actually, it is the most important teaching methods, as the name suggests, task based approach. Similarly, it is an approach of teaching that places attention on task activities, and it was developed by Willis 1998. Task. The concept of task is very important to this approach. So here is the definitions. What is task? According to Shehan 1996, tasks are activities which have a meaning as the primary focus. And according to Nona 1989, task defines as a piece of classroom work which involves learners in comprehending, manipulating, and producing the target language while the focus is on the meaning rather than the form. So, tasks apparently are classroom activities in which learners are engaged. They manipulate the language, they pick one another, they try to make use of the language, and more emphasis is on the meaning, whether they understand it or not. And focus is not on grammar and vocabulary. So now let's define what is a task-based activity. When we say a task-based activity, it is a procedure in which students have to use the target language in order to achieve a specific outcome. So, the best task-based learning activities reflect real-life situations. So, the students can see that the lesson is relevant to their own lives. And it also encourages fluency and motivate students to use the language. So now let's move on to the framework of task-based approach. So the context in which a task-based approach is developed. So here we go back in 1990s, in which some researchers in second language acquisition showed support to task. So these researchers should support to task, which means they have developed the conception, task, and activities that engage learners and which are so essential to language learning. Task-based approach is based on two fundamental assumptions. First is engaging learners in task provides a better context for the activation of a learning process than form-focused activities. So here It means that engaging learners in activities or in tasks, it is helpful for them to develop a better understanding of what they learned, and more focus should be on the meaning. Second is the language learning is believed to depend on not only providing students with comprehensible input but also engaging them in tasks that require from them to negotiate meaning. It means learners acquire a certain language they have. They have to produce it, they have to speak that language, they have to practice it. And this means that language learning is not only the comprehensible input that is important, but also the ability of the learners to use and to produce language. The advocates of task-based approach claim that their approach is effective because number one, a more focus is on the process rather than the product. And this means that it is not the outcome that is important, but the process, the task in which the learner is engaged. Second, activities that emphasize communication and meaning help learners develop a better proficiency. So here, teachers who are making the use of task-based approach have to assure that students are communicating and understanding meaning and understanding what others are saying. This is the way that they can develop a better proficiency. Task-based approach is based on an array of learning principles. Number one, a task provides the input and output necessary for language acquisition. So this simply means that when students are engaged in a particular task, they have the potential as well as the opportunity to produce the language. Second, task activities are motivational. It means that when students are involved in tasks, we expect some group work, collaboration. So one student is trying to explain something to the other students, and this actually support students' interest and their motivation. In task-based approach, the learner has different roles. For example, group participant. Tasks involve students and groups. So one student is a participant of a certain group. Second is the monitor. When you engage a student in a particular task, this is a group who is supposed to work together, right? So sometimes one student might be a monitor and take care the whole group. Lastly, the risk taker and innovator means that the student has to make use of the language to take a risk of producing the language. Teachers also have three essential rules. First is the select and sequencer of tasks. In task-based approach, the teacher has to select appropriate tasks. Second, preparing learners for tasks. Apparently, before engaging students in a task, teachers have to tell students about the task and what they are going to do or supposed to do. So the third one is raising consciousness. Teachers had to raise students' consciousness to the task and tell them what they are expected to do.